What's up, my wizards? It's Dev. From Mtg, we like magic, and today we're finally going to set aside some time to talk about something that you apparently really want me to talk about. Today, we're going to sit down and discuss Brawl. But first of all, what is that even, right? In case you haven't heard of Brawl yet, it's a new format that's a lot like Commander. It's like almost exactly like Commander, actually, just within the parameters of Standard. You know, just like Commander, you can only have one of any given card in your deck that's not a non-basic land, and the deck will be built around a general, which in this case can be a legendary creature or a planeswalker. Interesting wrinkle, but there are some tweaks. Instead of starting at 40, you start at 30, and instead of building a 100 card deck, you build a 60 card deck. That's pretty much all you have to know about it as far as like what Brawl actually is. But this has been pretty polarizing since they first announced it. There are people excited about it. I think it's kind of cool. Sounds fun. And then there are people who are just like yelling cash grab because people do that. I mean, they want to sell boosters. Why? How dare they want to sell boosters? But, you know, I think it's a cool idea for format. And there are concerns that are way past the usual, you know, cynical screaming of cash grab. There are concerns past that. There are even people saying in sort of extremist tones that they're trying to like kill Commander. I don't think that's true at all. I don't think that's completely unfounded, to be honest. But there are more sort of concerns with the technical aspects of the format. You know, if we can only use one of any given card and we have the limitations of Standard to deal with, then, you know, do we have enough cards to do that? Well, I will say we're building 60 card decks instead of 100 card decks. So we're cutting 40 slots. And like after doing some like brewing around with the format a little bit, I think we've got plenty of slots to do with like what we want to do. So I don't think that's as much of a concern as it might initially appear to be either. Honestly, on the bright side, I see this being good for a large contingent of different kinds of Magic players. You know, newer players that want to play Commander, but like they mostly have Standard cards. They don't have the cards, nor can they afford to build like a $2,000 Narset deck. It's just not gonna happen. They can't do it. Like returning players who have the same problem, maybe they've sold or given away their cards in the past. They've got a bunch of Standard cards. They really want to play Commander with their play group, but they just don't have the juice. You know, Brawl would be a good format for them. People that like to open booster packs, just like to open booster packs. You know, and like maybe, I think this is a large contingent of people. Maybe you've opened Chandra, Torch of Defiance. Maybe you've opened a Scarab God or something. But you're not really interested, nor do you have the funds to go out and buy the other copy or two or three that you might have to buy to make a really competitive Standard deck. But you really want to play with that one copy of Chandra that you open. Well, this gives you a chance to not only get to play that Chandra, but get to play it every single game out of the command zone. I think that's really, really cool for a lot of people. You know, people that draft a lot, or again, just people that open boosters, they'll get one copy of a lot of cards, and this gives them sort of another playable format to play and have fun with. And in a way, this is an important point to make, and I think the last one I will make before I go into the meat of the video here, is that it gives a little bit more, maybe not expected monetary value from a pack of cards, but I do remember a time, and a lot of us do, when if you were opening a pack of, you know, Standard legal Magic cards, then the only set that would have any value in at all was Standard, you know. And then Commander became a thing, and now you might open, you know, a 6 or 7 mana rare that's only worth 50 cents. It's not worth playing in Standard, but it's really good in Commander. Same thing with Pauper. Pauper becomes a little bit more popular. I always hate saying Pauper's popular. Sounds weird, but Pauper becomes a little bit more popular, and now when you open a Standard pack, you're also getting some value just out of the random commons that you're opening up. That's awesome. Same thing with Modern. You know, they print stuff like Monastery Swiftspear, Fatal Push, and a few other cards just recently that have value in Modern. So this is just another format to add to the expected gameplay value of a pack of Standard cards, and I like that. I like that when you open a pack that's legal in Standard, you're not just getting Standard cards anymore. And Brawl adds yet another format to that formula. I really like that. You open a pack that's legal in Standard, there's like 5 or 6 different formats that you could get value in just from opening that one $4 pack, and that seems good to me. But it also raises final concern here, raises the question of, does this just jack up the price of Standard? Well, it all kind of depends. I think there will be obvious crossover between the cards that are good in Standard and some of the cards that are good in Brawl, but not 100% crossover either. I think that a lot of the cards that are going to be really good in Brawl are cards that can't quite hack it in Standard, you know, like big 6-mana creatures and stupid planeswalkers that just aren't quite good enough for real competitive Standard play, but they're quite good in a slower game where you have a higher starting life total. You know, Brawl is perfect for that. So I don't think there's going to be 100% crossover. And just because a card's good in Brawl, I don't necessarily think it's going to demand a much higher price tag than it normally would. But those are just my thoughts, and mostly, I like a thought experiment as much as the next guy. You know, that's one of the reasons I like building decks. That's why I like new formats. That's why I like Pauper so much. Is it's really nice to get out of your normal headspace and experiment with a new format. And Brawl is really cool for that. Again, I've been brewing around the last few days, and it's been really fun. Honestly, I like a lot of what we can possibly do with this. It lets cards shine that otherwise would never get the chance to shine. I think that's always cool, you know? So what the rest of this video is going to do is just going to be participating in the thought experiment and not necessarily paying attention to any of the sort of outside intangible variables like, is this a cash grab? We're just going to work within the perimeters of what we have here. The parameters of what we have, sorry. And see what we can come up with. And the answer is, I think, some pretty cool stuff, you know? So the rest of the video is going to be what are, you know, the best commanders in each guild, you know, because I'm not really too interested in monocolored commanders. I don't know that we have enough of a card pool necessarily for monocolored. And as far as 3-colors, I think there's some really cool 3-color guys. I'll talk about them. But I think right now, with the Brawl format, guilds probably hit the sweet spot in playability. So I'm going to talk about all 10 of the guilds and what the best commanders are in each of them. And we'll start with Dimir, Blue-Black, this guild, because I actually think there's a ton of reasons to play it in a format like Brawl right now, but the best one is probably still the Scarab God. This is probably the best card in Standard right now, and I think it's probably, end of the day, going to be maybe the best general for Brawl as well. Now, a couple of cool things. Remember that if your commander is going to get exiled or, you know, put in the graveyard for whatever reason, you can always choose whether or not to put it back into the command zone. So if they do just kill your Scarab God and it goes to the graveyard, you can choose to let it sit in the graveyard and then pop back to your hand next turn. You don't have to let it go to the command zone. I think that's cool. So that last bit of text on it isn't completely useless in Commander. And do note, too, that exile removal that would normally be great against it, like Vraska's Contempt, just puts it right back into the command zone and you can play it again if you want to, thus circumventing a lot of the answers for it, which I think is great. I don't see any reason why Scarab God won't be a really crazy Brawl commander, not to mention that blue and black is a great color combination with lots of awesome black removal, blue counter magic. I mean, even with just one copy of, you know, all these different counter spells and removal spells, I think you could probably still fill out 60 slots pretty easily. But that's not all, actually. I mean, Tezzeret is another good blue-black commander that would still give you access to all those counter spells, all those crazy removal spells, but give you a different angle. You build an artifact deck, and that might be really nice. There's plenty of artifacts, too, to build within Standard right now, and that would give you an extra way to fill those slots if you're worried about filling them. Tezzeret would be a really sweet and fun commander, too. Up next, we'll stay blue, but we'll switch to the Azorius Guild, because there's some really exciting stuff here, too. The most exciting of which is probably Azor. Again, this is a perfect example of a card that's a little bit too slow for Standard play, at least at present, but could really shine in this format where you get to play it essentially whenever you want, you know. Another thing I like about Brawl is that it makes a lot of cards that would usually just be one or two of in your deck anyway, into cards that you can get that one or two of whenever you want, and you just build the rest of the deck around it. It changes the way that you build a deck. It changes the way you play a deck. If you can guarantee Azor on turn 6 or 7 whenever you get your 6th land, that changes an awful lot. And if you can just fire off one attack step with Azor, which again would be really easy to set up in this format, then you can draw all the cards, gain all the life. So I'm excited about playing Azor in this format. It doesn't look extremely great for Standard, but in a format like this where, again, things take a little bit longer, you have a higher starting life total, this thing looks a lot more powerful. In Azorius, you could also build around Timid, which I think would be great. I generally like generals. There's another weird statement. I generally like commanders, switch it up, that cost, you know, as little or nothing to play. I like 1, 2, and 3 mana commanders, so that when I go to cast them again, they won't cost an arm and a leg. And you could definitely say that about Timid. And I think that with certain tribes and stuff, there's not necessarily enough support for, you know, certain unique commanders. Like Cumena, I'm not 100% sure there's enough support to play Merfolk in Brawl. But With something like this, I think there's just enough support. We've got plenty of Eternalize and Embalm creatures. We've got ways to make tokens outside of that. We've got Anointed Procession. There's just a ton. We've got Aven Wind Guide. That card exists in the format. There's just a ton of stuff to make this work in Brawl. Just because we only get to play one copy of stuff doesn't mean there's not enough support. I think there's just enough support for Timid, and it'd be a really awesome commander. Another guild that I think is just like packed with potential for this format is actually Selesnya. Selesnya has really cool stuff, starting with Watley. You could build an awesome deck around Watley if you knew you were going to get her on turn 4 every time. Just try to fill the board as much as possible, and then play her when she's most advantageous. She can get a super high loyalty, she can make a dude huge, or she can ultimate super easily. So this is another example, and a lot of these will be, of cards that you only want to play 1 or 2 copies of in a standard deck, but you want to see them in that standard deck. With the deck, like, you know, with the limitations that we have in Brawl, again, you'll see the card every single game, but you don't have to play more than 1 copy of it to do that. I really like that, and I think Watley could shine in that format. But I think other things could too. Ajani's way too slow for most standard decks, but could be great in this format. Just a super good value planeswalker that can remove creatures, get you card advantage. Cards like that are gonna be good as your commander, and Ajani's no different. But Selesnya also gets a super cheap commander that I was just talking about. I like those. And Shanna. Going to be in Dominaria, and just like Watley, you could build a similar deck around Shanna if you wanted to. Just fill your board, get Shanna as big as possible. And it's notable too that in this format, Shanna's kind of cool, because if your opponent is playing a Planeswalker as their general, they can't target Shanna. That seems like it's kind of corner, but also really important in the format. As far as Orzhov, my favorite guild, I sadly don't see all the playability, but there's still stuff that I'm excited to build with. You know, Alinda seems like it'd be awesome to build an Aristocrats type deck with. I'm really interested in trying to do that. We can't really take Alinda all the way in standard, but maybe this is the format for it. Seems like it'd be fun, especially once the format fills out. We have a few more pieces that are Aristocratsian. I could see Alinda being a great general. And I even like the idea of Arvad, another card that's coming up in Dominaria. You just fill your deck with Black-White Legends, and Arvad would be really good in that scenario. And you get to play stuff like Jeru, great-looking card in this format, just goes and searches any Planeswalker up for you. And tutors are few and far between in standard. You get this and Trophy Mage and not a whole lot else. So cards like Jeru look really good, and they'd be really good in the Arvad deck. As far as the grungy Golgari, they get some cool stuff. Hapatra looks awesome. This is another card that you might not think there'd be all the support in the world for, but they actually printed a bunch of -1/-1 counter stuff, you know, in and Ket block, like just enough, again, that I think we have support for this. You know, there's Amit Eternal, Channeler Initiate, stuff like that, but there's also like Plague Belcher. There are a ton, actually. Defiant Gravemaw, of cards that put -1/-1 counters on things. It might actually be great. Lethal Sting, Baneful, Bane Whip Punisher. You could actually make this deck work, and any holes in the deck's philosophy you could just fill with like black-green good stuff, you know, removal, creatures, stuff like that. So I can see Hapatra being really sweet too. And if you really wanted to just go the route of good stuff in green and black, you can make Vraska your commander, and that would be a pretty dope top end that you're guaranteed every single game. So there's some cool stuff in Golgari too. As far as Big Boros, it's got sweet options. You know, Firesong and Sunspeaker is something out of Dominaria that looks like it's specifically kind of made for Commander in general, but also this format. This is one of the cards I've been brewing with the most for Brawl, and I was a little, like, worried that there wouldn't be enough slots to fill the deck, but it turns out there's more than enough slots that you can do. There's Jaya's Immolating Inferno looks really good with this. Hour of Devastation looks really broken with it. Sweltering Suns. Just the red spells are great with it, but in white we've got stuff like Sanguine Sacrament and a bunch of other stuff. That, you know, there's Renewed Faith, the thing that busts an artifact or an enchantment and gains you 4 life. There's a ton of cool stuff. But, you know, you've just got red-white good stuff to go along with, too. Sweepers. I've already mentioned all the red ones, but there's Fumigate, Settle the Wreckage, you know. You've got tons of sweepers in red and white, and they all, except for Fumigate, play pretty well with Firesong. And there's actually even Depala if you wanted to do that. Obviously, there's not a ton of dwarves in standard, but there are a pretty good amount of vehicles and an ability like Depala's that allows you to just dig into your deck. a certain number of cards is really valuable in a deck like, a Brawl deck where you have 60 cards just like standard, but there's only one of each given card that's not non-basic. So the ability to dig through your deck and pick up a piece or two is really, really sweet. It's almost like a semi-tutor. And again, tutors are few and far between and very valuable in formats like this. So I wouldn't be surprised if Depala was actually dope. As far as the Izzet guild, though, these guys have really broken stuff, at least from what I can tell. The Locust God is crazy, right? If I'm to understand, Locust God is crazy. This has always been a card that's like just on the cusp of standard playability, at least in my eyes and the eyes of lots of other people. And in a format like this, it could definitely shine. Slower games, higher starting life total, 6 mana doesn't seem like so much, and you can set up so many crazy things. Draw all the cards, get all the, 1/1 flying haste dudes, and just take over a game with the Locust God. It seems entirely possible. But it also seems like you could do that with Joyra. Brand new thing. Well, I guess the character isn't brand new, but new card out of Dominaria. It seems like you could take over a game. You could just draw dozens of cards off of this, and card draw is also a really sought after thing to be able to do in these commander type formats. So Joyra looks super broken. Looks like you could get all the value in the world out of it too. Now Simic as a guild kind of worries me in this format. I'd really like to have access to good removal, and we don't. There's River's Rebuke. There's a couple of other blue cards that might do some work in Brawl, but for the most part, we don't have access to the same kind of removal that decks playing black, white, or red have. So I'm not sure about Simic, but there are some good-looking generals that might make it worth it. Like Nissa, Steward of Elements, first of all, looks really, really, tempting to build around. Again, Simic kind of scares me, but at the same time, this might be worth it. All 3 abilities are crazy. This kind of card advantage, even the Scry, is great in this format. So I like it. I like the versatility out of the command zone. You can play it for lots of different values in different situations, and you can't say that about pretty much any other commander in the format. So that in and of itself is really cool too. But you also get really tantalizing stuff like Rashmi and Tishana. Both of these look like really, really good commander build-arounds in and of themselves. So they're going to be really awesome commanders in Brawl, I would imagine. That's probably a rule of thumb. But if it's a fun commander in Commander, it's probably really good in Brawl. So depending on what we've got access to. Cards like Rashmi really don't need much help. They're just card advantage engines, and that's great in any given commander. Same thing with Tishana. Things like this are just crazy. It's going to draw you all the cards in the world, and the maximum hand size is really good in Commander, generally. So I like pretty much every Simic commander we can get our hands on. Just what we can build around it is what's going to make the difference. As far as Gruel goes, I'm kind of not as excited currently, but I will point out that both versions of Samut look really nice. And this is another card that I usually don't want to play more than 1 or 2 copies of in any given deck, but again, we can guarantee that we'll get a copy of it if we make it our general. I like the Planeswalker one for building sort of an enraged deck. That seems kind of cool. And I like the creature one too. The dude Samut looks awesome, or whatever. The creature Samut looks really cool to me to build around too. I'm not super excited about Gruel. We don't have all the options in the world, but both Samuts are worth pointing out and could easily be built around. And finally, as far as Rakdos, there's a couple of cool things here too. There's Angrath if you want to build around a Planeswalker. And Angrath's cool. He's worded very well. Just say that. Each opponent's always nice. But he's awesome. Let me say that. Stealing a creature from anybody seems really great too. So lots of cool stuff about Angrath. Again, if you want a dumb Planeswalker at the top of your curve, Angrath, you could make worse choices than Angrath. But, there's also the Scorpion God. This looks great to me too. Just like its other Amonkhet God brethren. If you want to just send it to the graveyard when it dies, so it pops back to your hand and you don't have to pay a tax on it out of the command zone, you can do that if you want to. And that seems pretty great. And it's a mana sink that kills stuff. That's always good in Commander. And we don't really have a whole lot of commanders that are capable of doing that in the Brawl format. Scorpion God can, and he's really good at it. Again, mana sinks tend to be good in Commander. Commanders that can kill other creatures tend to be good. So I can see this being a format where, again, this card's been waiting for a chance to shine. It could be really, really good in Brawl. But there's some really good 3-color commanders too. I've got like 5 of them. I'm going to briefly point out the most important of which I think is Joda. This is just the one that I want to build around the most because its color identity is all 5 colors. And that's really cool. It's always fun to be able to build a 5-color commander deck. Not really sure we have the mana base to do it, but I'm not sure that we don't. either. So it's going to be fun at least trying to brew with Joda. There's also Zakama and Gishath if you're looking for a dino commander. Although Zakama doesn't even have to be a dinosaur commander. Just commander that untaps all your lands when you play it. Seems great. In Gishath, this is another card that digs a bunch of cards into your deck and just gets you dumb on-board card advantage. And that seems really good in Commander. Gishath is a commander that people already play in Commander at large. Same thing with Zakama. People have been building EDH decks with this already. So I see them translating pretty well to this format. Also like Nicol Bolas, it costs so much, but I like the idea of building Grixis and just playing all the best cards in the format until you get to Nicol Bolas, and then you're basically guaranteed to drop him late in the game. All that seems like a really dumb competitive strategy, and if you're trying to build like maybe the best possible Brawl deck, I think Nicol Bolas is in the conversation. But if you want to build Grixis, you don't have to go that way. You could also build Beckett Brass. That gives you, access to all three colors in which there are pirates. And if you're going to build an Ixalan tribe, it's probably the best one. There are probably more pirates printed, by and large, than most of the other tribes because they were in 3 different colors, and that's not something that every tribe got to do. Dinosaurs got to do it, yes, but there are a bunch of, little pirate dudes that would really be good in the Beckett Brass Commander deck. Just like Gishath, too. This just doesn't lose much in translation. If you're going to build Beckett Brass in Commander, you're going to be playing a bunch of pirates anyway to facilitate her ability. Same thing here, and most of those pirates are in Ixalan anyway. So again, really not much is lost. You can easily build Beckett Brass and it'd be really fun. But that's pretty much it as far as the discussion for now. Now, it's really important that you take up the reins from here. And let me know how you feel about Brawl. Let me know if you want me to do deck techs, at least 1 or 2 while we're feeling this format out. It's a good time for it while we're sort of in between formats. Standard is still a thing, but there was a huge Dominaria leak, obviously. We know most of the cards are going to be in that. We're just waiting the 4 or 5 weeks until Dominaria is legal. So there's kind of a lull right now, and I think it's a perfect time to discuss Brawl, maybe take some time to get a couple of deck techs out, if that's what you want to see. If it is, let me know. It's very important that you voice your, what you want to do here. Do you want the deck techs? Do you not want the deck techs? Some people think it's a waste of time. Some people are really excited about the format for a variety of reasons. So let me know how you feel in the comments section. And if you do want to see me do deck techs, also let me know what commanders you're most excited about seeing in the format. And also remember, this video is brought to you in part by TCGplayer.com. They help out with content, and they're my sponsor. They're my sponsor. They're good folks over there in New York. Not New York City, but New York State. Anyway, good people. Help them out. Help the channel out. You can already buy Dominaria products. Sealed booster boxes are available. And pre-orders on everything that we know exists in Dominaria already. So if you just want a price guide, they're good for that. Click the first link in the description. Go check out their wares. Also, hope you liked the video. Whether or not you enjoyed the video, just help me out. Just be like, hey, that guy's cool. He deserves some help. So like the video, even if you hate me. Do that. But you can also subscribe to the channel. Make sure you hit the bell for the notifications. That's also super important. Lots of spoiler content for Dominaria coming up. You want that. You want the Brawl deck techs, maybe. You want the standard deck techs, definitely. So make sure you sub, hit the bell. Follow me on Twitter at SBMTGDev. And if you're interested in supporting the channel, all I ask is $1 a month, and for your investment, I'll let you know what videos we're doing the day before we do them. That's pretty cool information. So do all that stuff, and make sure, this is really important, let me know how you feel about all this Brawl stuff down there. And I will catch you cats later. I'm Dev from The Place. Thanks for watching, my wizards. Remember, spread love and be kind.